Hey everyone, this is Christine S. Escobar, founder and editor of Represent Classical. In this episode of Conversations, I talk with Brendan Slocumb, author of the debut novel, The Violin Conspiracy. I had the pleasure of interviewing Brendan a few weeks back for a story on his meteorically successful novel, which was just published by Anchor Books' Penguin Random House on February 1st. Today we talk more about his creative process, what he's been up to on tour with the book, and he gives us an exclusive look at his next book. I'll give you a hint. There's music involved. The Violin Conspiracy tells the story of a young Black violinist, Ray, who on the eve of one of the world's most prestigious classical music competitions has his violin stolen from him. The book has been called a riveting page-turner. The Washington Post calls it as engaging as it is suspenseful. The LA Times says it is one of the 7 best crime novels of the winter. Fedor's calls it a stunning globe-trotting thriller, and it's been chosen as a Good Morning America book selection. Brendan Slocumb is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro with a degree in music education, concentrations on violin and viola. For the past 23 years, he's been a public and private school music educator from kindergarten through 12th grade, teaching general music, orchestra, and guitar. In 2005, he was named Teacher of the Year for Robert E. Lee High School, and he has been named to the Who's Who of American Teachers list, and is a Nobel Teacher of Distinction. He also serves as an educational consultant for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. As a musician, he's performed with the Washington Metropolitan Symphony, the McLean Symphony, the Prince George's Philharmonic, and the Alexandria Symphony. He serves as the concertmaster for the Nova Annandale Symphony Orchestra, and has been a frequent adjudicator and guest conductor for district and regional orchestras throughout North Carolina and Virginia. He also performs chamber music with members of the Annandale Symphony. So I hope you'll enjoy watching this new episode of Conversations. Thanks so much, and please don't forget to subscribe for more. So how are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's great to see you. I know we've talked on the phone before, but it's nice to actually see you in person. How has the last few weeks been going? I know you've been like super busy in the last 5 weeks since the book Violin Conspiracy has come out.
It has been amazing. I am, like you said, busy. It's something every day, and it's great. I love it.
That's great. So have you been like going on like appearances or like traveling and things like that?
Yes, actually more in-person events than I would have expected. I'm glad things are calming down with the pandemic, so
Yeah.
we're able to actually do some more traveling. And I'm traveling in a couple of weeks and a week after that, and yeah, it's good stuff.
That's great. So you've been like, how many different states have you been to at this point?
New York, Philly, Dallas, North Carolina so far.
Wow. And that's just like,
yeah.
and Los Angeles?
Los Angeles coming up, Florida coming up, and I think Vermont is coming up, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the book just came out, I think my story was on February 11th. I think the book came out first week of February, right? February 4th or?
February 1st.
First, okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. So it's been like a whirlwind.
It really has.
That's great. I mean, it's great. People are really responding to it. Looking back at the book again, obviously when I talked to you, I told you I had read it. I think I read it within like 24 hours. I just kind of like sped read it. And it wasn't because, preparation. It was more like, it was so gripping. Like I couldn't put it down, and it's really good. Is that kind of the feedback that you're getting from people when they've read it?
I am getting a lot of that. People are just, they're zipping through it. And I gotta say, and I know this sounds a little bit braggadocious, but as I was writing it, I would go back and read early chapters just to, kind of catch up to where I was. And I would say, wow, this is actually pretty entertaining. I'm digging this. This is pretty good.
That's great. I was thinking about what we were talking about on our call about how you had been planning this. You said that you had been planning. You had written a little bit in the past and then kind of put it away, then went back to it in 2020. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about like sort of that burst of creativity that you had, because what I'm finding in a lot of the interviews that I've been doing with people is that, obviously that was a pivotal year for many reasons, pandemic, and then also, racial justice moments. Can you talk a little bit more about like what that felt like for you as far as like your awareness of like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this now.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I mean, 2020, like you said, 2020 was just crazy for so many reasons for everybody, the entire world. And with being stuck at home all day, every day, it gives you a lot of time to reflect and to absorb what's going on around you. And when I saw the events that took place with George Floyd, it was just, I mean, it's just indescribable.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured now would be the perfect time because the world has now seen that things like this do happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just a select group of people complaining. It's this is real life. This really affects
Mm-hmm.
people. So I figured this was a perfect time for people to receive these types of stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like there's something about it. I feel like, with the pandemic, obviously, and then of course with police violence, there's a threat to your oneself. There's a threat at that moment in that year. There's a threat to people's livelihoods, their
Mhm.
career. So there's the uncertainty of what the future might hold. So there's kind of, I think, that that feeling like it's now or never. And
Mhm.
and also I think I felt that a lot of people were kind of looking at things as maybe a clean slate to sort of,
Mm.
let's turn over the trash can, throw everything out, and then let's see where we can start again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a reset is
Hmm.
definitely a good way to describe it. Lots of people, they would come up to me and say, I had no idea. My eyes
Hmm.
have been opened. I'm thinking about things and from a totally different perspective now.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
nothing else has come out of that, people's awareness has changed, which I think is a good thing.
Definitely. Definitely. I listened to a little bit of your podcast. I really liked it. I think I was listening to the last one I listened to was Daniel Romaine, and that was really cool because I did not know at all that he was affiliated with Two Live Crew. That was
I know, isn't
really
that great?
sort of mind blowing, totally mind blowing. But yeah, so your podcast, it's called Music Can Save Your Life,
Mhm.
and you've interviewed so many people on that topic. Like, what is the kind of common thread that you're finding? Obviously, in different ways, it saves your life. But what are some of the common themes that you're finding when you're talking to people about that?
It has been fascinating to understand from all of these people from all different walks of life, from professional conductors to professional violinists to jazz violinists to pianists and bassoonists, everything. Everyone has almost the exact same story. We all started the exact same way. It was through, public school music, and all of our friends were doing bad things, and we were practicing. We were involved in our music, so that kept us out of trouble. And just hearing that, there's a couple of times where I said, "Wow, you could be interviewing me because this is the exact same
Hmm.
story that I have." And I found that with a lot of my guests, and it was, I mean, it was mind blowing because
Hmm.
for so long I thought, well, it's just me. I'm the only one. This is the only one that this happens to. I'm the only one that has this experience. And so not the case. There are just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people with the exact same story. And it's great for this platform to be able to,
Hmm.
just let everyone know that you're not alone out there. We there are so many of us that have the exact same story. And if we can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, like the parallel lives that
Mhm.
are happening, and like you said, people in all different walks of life and different states and different situations, but it's all that same running theme. I think Daniel was talking about how he'd get mistaken for a driver
Right.
for one of the conductors or something like that at a symphony, and it's just there's repeated stories like that
Mhm.
that happen, and again, like obviously several years back, I mean, people would be very much alone in this, and you just kind of, you need a job, so you just keep going with that. But now we can talk about this, and we can
Mhm.
label it, and we can name it, and it's fulfilling to be able to understand that this is real. It wasn't just me being
Right.
gaslit all these years.
Right. Right.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is your book, especially because it is so, it really is so realistic in, sort of describing what you've gone through, what a lot of Black musicians go through in classical music.
Mhm.
Um, how did you feel about when you were writing it, that idea that you were standing up to this white Eurocentric establishment view of classical music? And, did you ever have those moments where you were like, well, this is, I mean, obviously you're doing something brave.
Did you ever have those moments where you're like, I don't know if this is going to, resonate with people? Like, what are people, what are critics going to say? Things like that.
To be perfectly honest, I never really wanted, I just wanted to write a story that people would like. That was my only intention. And the fact that people have resonated with it, it's been I dare say shocking to me.
Hmm.
Like I mentioned earlier, people are really receptive to this, but there's a lot of, there's some instances where I was writing and I'm like, it's probably going to be the same thing that it always is. You're just exaggerating. You're just being dramatic.
Right.
This is too much. And, and I've learned that that's what I've dealt with for, years and years and years and years. So I didn't think that putting this book out would be any different. I honestly
Hmm.
did not
Hmm.
think that, oh, people are going to, because it's in a book now. Yeah. People are going to say, yeah, this is how it is. And, oh man, we feel so bad for, but I didn't think
Hmm.
that would happen. And I gotta say the response has been, I'm pleasantly shocked
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
how receptive people are, and just people will write me and say, I truly did not know. I honestly
Hmm.
thought that this was just an exaggeration. Now
Hmm.
my perspective has totally changed. I will look
Hmm.
at things differently. I will look at people who look like you much
Hmm.
differently. Because
Hmm.
your experiences are so different than mine, and now I have a platform to actually be able to discuss that openly and honestly, and which
Hmm.
is something I don't think has ever happened to a lot of these people before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's really the key. I mean, I think so. You're changing minds
Mhm.
with people, which is really something that you didn't anticipate. Obviously, you're saying you had a little bit of a low expectations with it because of the history of these kinds of things.
Mhm.
But what are some of the things that some of the young people have been saying to you that you've met, college or some of your students? I'm wondering if they've, had some feedback on it.
A lot of my students, my students who are, they're friends of mine now. I knew
Hmm.
them when they were 14, 15 years old, and now they're like 30 and 40, and they have their own kids. And they have honestly said, I could hear you. I heard you in this, and I know you, so I know everything that you said. I feel your pain, I feel your joy, I feel your accomplishment. And that's a nice feeling, to have one of your students say that they're proud of you. And some of the younger people that aunts and uncles have given them this book, who
Hmm.
kids who play instruments, they some of the comments that I've gotten is like, I feel like you're a superhero idol that we can look up to, because
Hmm.
you've gone through what I'm currently going through and you came out okay. It worked for you, so that there is hope for me. And just
Hmm.
hearing that, I'm like, wow, okay.
Hmm.
I didn't realize. All right, I'll accept that responsibility. That's great. So it really is, when you mention, Christine, that it's changing people's minds. It really is, and to me,
Hmm.
that is just, that's God working through me to
Hmm.
make things
Hmm.
better for other people, and I will gladly accept that.
That's great. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned superheroes. You have like the superhero poster back there. So it's like, wow, oh my God. And you have like different, I can see like the little action figures too
Oh
there.
yeah, oh
The whole
they're
setup.
all over the whole setup, and then
That's
this
great.
wall over here. Oh, it's done. It's just everything.
That's great. I didn't get a chance to ask you a little bit about like your creative process. So when you were writing, obviously, you're a musician and you're an educator. So how did you find time to work on this, and how did that work? How did that look like? Obviously, we were in the pandemic, stay at home, and things like that. But how did you discipline yourself?
It was actually quite easy, because as a musician, I was accustomed to practicing for hours a day.
Hmm.
I would sit down. When I was in college, I would do 3.5 hours every day, and
Hmm.
that was no big deal. I didn't go home and watch TV. I didn't go to a party. I was practicing, and
Right.
that was just what you do. And it's stuck with me for years and years and years after college. So it wasn't really that tough. I would just set aside time. Like I would teach. I would go work out in the morning and then come and write, and then I would
Hmm.
do my lessons in the afternoon. And when the pandemic started to kind of shrink a little bit, and when I was working on book 2, it was the same thing. I do all my writing in the morning and then teaching in the afternoon, and then sometimes I would come back and write again at night, just to make sure that I was up on my deadlines. My agent gave me very strict deadlines. Make sure you have this done. I'm like, all right, dude. So it was actually pretty easy to do because I'm so accustomed to having a schedule.
Right. And you bring up that sort of discipline and that character building element of music, and how that kind of teaches you to buckle down and do things. Could you tell me a little bit more about how you try to sort of instill that in your students, like how it's not just about becoming number one in the competition and becoming a soloist and touring the world and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because a lot of my former students now, in their work lives, in their daily lives, they're very structured. They have routines, and they've been playing their instruments, and this is how it is, and you do it and you go through it, and you actually gain a lot of enjoyment from it. So they are totally, this is how life is, this is how it's supposed to be, and it works for us. My current students, it takes a little bit more time to get them acclimated to the way that I like them to do things. And I will tell them, this is how I want you to do. I want you to practice this for this amount of time, and then this, and then this. And if you don't do it on your own, we're going to sit here in your lesson and do it. So you have a choice. We can sit here for a half an hour and you do these exercises that you should have done on your own, or we can do the stuff that you practice, your choice. And first couple of times we have to sit for half an hour and they're just like, oh, this sucks. I was like, yeah, well, you should have done it on your own. And they begin to get the picture, and then they realize early on, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to have to do, and it's not so bad, I can handle this.
Right. Yeah, building good habits, like that's so important for young people, because they need that. And like you said, it translates to any different kind of industry or walk of life or field or whatever journey that you're going to be on.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that idea that these different skills that you learn through music, and also just the opportunity to do music, that's kind of opening a door for people, opening a door for young people. And you talk a little bit about that in your book. Actually, you mentioned it many times, I think, sort of subtly in the book. There's different moments where I kind of remember that theme being repeated of this opportunities being given to the character Ray. And that's one thing that I've been thinking about a lot with music education. How that there's sometimes there's those moments where you just happen to be given an open door, which leads to another door, which leads to another. And as we know, there's people who are born with the door already open.
Oh, yeah.
So if I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about just that, how music, and especially for BIPOC people, how that really does lead to just being able to have that somebody who's going to give somebody a chance, basically.
Right.
Gives them an open door.
There are people out there who just who want to see people succeed. There are. And there are people out there who just are dead set against anyone who doesn't look like them being able to succeed. So you just have to learn how to navigate those. And I tell people who ask for advice on what they should do to become a successful musician, I tell them, take every single gig, take every single one. If it pays $10, pay it. If it costs you 20 to get there and you only get $10, do it. It's exposure, it's opportunity. You may be playing a piece of music that you've never played before. You've gotten that experience. And then the next gig, someone will say, well, I need someone who knows this piece. Oh, I played that already. There you go. The door will be open. Your foot is in the door. Take every single gig. And just be very, very respectful. It might seem demeaning. Oh, they have me sitting last chair, second violin. That's okay. You're still playing the music. You're still getting the experience. Don't be too proud to say, well, I'm better than that, so I'm not going to. No. There's dignity in every single spot that every single person has. Take every gig, and the doors will open for you. It might take a little bit longer than for some other people, but it will happen.
Right. And you're building those connections along the way, because then as you get older and as you go through college and become a professional, somebody will say, we need a cellist for this, or we need a violinist for this. And then your name comes to mind. Exactly. So what is next for you as far as, the book, or are you working on any other related writing?
I turned in my manuscript to book 2 last month,
Ooh.
and it's being edited right now, and I'm really excited about that. I can't wait for it to come out. And I'm
Hmm.
about to start writing book 3 in about a month.
Wow.
I think I'm gonna start at the end of May and just, take the summer and write this 3rd book, which I can't even tell you how excited I am to get started on
Yeah,
it. And book 2 is coming out soon, and I'm really, really excited about that one.
that's great. And is it going to be, are we going to see any of the same characters at all? Or can you say that? Can you talk about that or no? It's just going to be, okay.
It's a standalone book. It's called
Okay.
the Composer's Last Score, and it's not music overkill. I promise. You don't have to be a musician to like it. I promise you. I know that the title is a little bit misleading, but
Hmm.
it's about America's preeminent composer. He's bigger than Beethoven and Bach and
Hmm.
Brahms
Hmm.
across the world. And
Hmm.
his 150th anniversary celebration is coming up. So the family that runs his foundation, his descendants, have hired a musicologist to do some research into why this guy's music resonated so much with the Black community. So
Hmm.
during his research, the musicologist discovers that this guy may not have written any of his music, and it was appropriated from a Black woman who we now know would be living with autism. And
Hmm.
the family will stop at nothing to keep that a secret. So I really wanted
Wow.
to do something that like
I can't
like
wait to read it already. Like I'm just sold already.
the whole autism aspect. I
Hmm.
really wanted
Hmm.
to. There's so little representation, and I
Hmm.
really wanted to. I have a nephew who lives with autism, and
Hmm.
I figured this was a perfect way to open doors that way.
Wow, how exciting. Oh my gosh, this is so great. It's been so wonderful to talk to you and hear about what's been going on. And thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today and chat about it, about the Violin Conspiracy and your work. I really appreciate it. And I really look forward to book 2 and book 3. Wow.
My absolute pleasure, Christine. It's great talking to you again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.